This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and as the thumbnail implies, today we're going to be talking or discussing whether or not DC Comics are going woke for 2020 and beyond. And I have a couple of pieces of evidence. One of them is the new Milestone issue 0 that DC released recently, I guess, in conjunction with DC Fandom. Another one is the Represent exclamation point comic book they also put out recently, as well as some other announcements of comic books in the future. And it's an interesting question, and it's an interesting dilemma really for readers, because when Marvel went through their SJW Marvel period, where they're changing all the characters, who are the lead characters, got to have everybody's got to be a younger, more diverse roles, and I like diversity in comics. I'm not against that really at all, but replacing the mainstay heroes with all new versions was a bad idea. It cost them sales. But when that was going on, a lot of people, their only salvage was to go over to DC because they were the only ones, basically being true to their original characters and stuff like that. But it appears that DC is following in those foot, or at least in that mindset as far as the future of their comic book line. Now, we don't know if this is going to be like the main focus of DC Comics moving forward. Obviously, Milestone #0 is a free comic book. I believe Represent exclamation point is also a free comic book. So it's not like they're selling these comic books. They are giving away for free. But it definitely does give us an indication about where maybe their minds are or where they want to move forward. Also with conjunction of a couple of more releases and the hiring of their newest general manager. I guess it's the first ever general manager. It's a new position, Daniel Cherry III. Now, before I get into this, I do want to say, if you're enjoying the content on Thinking Critical, but you haven't subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. I imagine I'm going to get a lot of feedback on this, whether it's good or bad. Just be respectful, and I'll be respectful to you. I don't mind people with differing opinions. I imagine I'm going to have a lot of that in the comments. Getting into some of the details here with the Milestone Zero issue that was released in conjunction with DC Fandom. Milestone's relaunch has kind of been something brewing at DC Comics for a while now. I think they announced it in 2016. I think maybe they re-announced it in 2018, but there were some legal issues with one of the original creators, Dwayne McDuffie's wife, surviving wife. For legal reasons, they're finally going to get it underway. And the big character for Milestone, and continues to be kind of the standout character, is Static. I believe now he's called Static Shock because of a cartoon. And they've changed his origin, which I find really weird. I understand it's kind of in vogue for corporations and celebrities and stuff to really support a lot of the things that are going on in the streets associated with Black Lives Matter, peaceful protests, right? Well, there are other things kind of associated with what's going on, notably rioting, looting. And I think in the end, it might not be all that smart to be marrying this character that's supposed to be the franchise for Milestone in with Black Lives Matter protests, which are associated with rioting and looting. And, a lot of people have been killed. A lot of people have been put out of business. Their business has been destroyed, burnt to the ground. While there are certainly some people out there that support everything going on with the Black Lives Matter protests, and they separate the two. There's certainly a large segment of people that don't separate the protests from the rioting and the looting. They kind of clump it all together. And I completely understand that. And I don't know, it's weird. Everything's so binary nowadays that if I don't support or if somebody doesn't support the Black Lives Matter protests, riots, looting, whatever you want to call it, then I support police brutality. That's not the world I live in, and nothing's binary like that. I don't support police brutality. If no matter what color you are, if you have an encounter with the police and you don't pose any kind of threat, you should make it home alive. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. That is a completely legitimate expectation. So I think police brutality is awful. If people are killed by police in the line of duty when they're acting, if there's no clear and present danger and they're abusing their authority, they need to be taken to task. There needs to be better training, but those people need to be brought to justice. I firmly believe that. But I also believe the people that are burning down businesses and assassinating people on the streets, they need to be brought to justice as well. And a lot of that is going on, and I think a lot of people's livelihoods are going to be ruined, and they're going to be it's going to be associated kind of with Black Lives Matter. So they've changed Static Shock's origin to kind of coincide with Black Lives Matter protests. So originally, I believe there was a gang war or a gang fight going on, and Virgil was kind of in the middle of it. The police used some type of tear gas, but it was contaminated with mutagen, and that's how he got his powers. But now it's more contemporary. Remember that when Marvel was making all their characters more contemporary and how well it worked out for them. But Virgil, Static Shock, is getting a more contemporary origin. He goes out to the Black Lives Matter protest, and somehow there are two white bullies from his school that hate this kid and make his life miserable. Obviously, it's because he's black. Why they would be at a Black Lives Matter protest to go and instigate a bunch of people protesting against what they are about, so they can get beat up and henned up and probably put on the ground pretty hard for being out of line. Beyond me, but they showed up. They start fighting again, and there's more tear gas, and it says it kills him. So I'm imagining this tear gas had the mutagen and it killed him, and he rises up in Static Shock, and you can see his bullies on the right side. They've also been affected by the mutagen. Obviously, those are going to be the villains, at least early on. And man, it's not a good time to be a redhead in comics. It automatically you're the villain. So I don't know. What do you think? Is this smart? Is it smart to take the flagship character of your relaunched property, Milestone Comics, and marry it in with Black Lives Matter? I don't think it is. I think it's it's probably not well conceived. I think corporate heads and big time supporters of what's going on don't realize exactly how people like me and not just just me from afar, but people that aren't going out and protesting or counter protesting, that are sitting home and watching these events unfold on TV. I do not have a good feeling about police brutality, but I don't have a good feeling about Black Lives Matter either. I think they're both wrong. Like I said, it's not a binary world. You can dislike one and dislike the other one just as much. And I'm kind of in that boat, and I imagine a lot of normal people are. So I don't think this is going to be a smart move. And if they want to transition this character to movies, I certainly don't think it's going to be a smart move at all. I think you're just shrinking down an audience. You're going to have a large portion of people that won't want to support the character just because you change his origin to going in and supporting these things. Icon is kind of like Milestone's version of Superman, and he's got his own version of Robin with him. So instead of their version of Batman having Robin, it's actually Icon, their Superman, having Robin. I think her name is Rocket. She's introduced. She's a criminal. She's breaking into a house, and she teams up here with Icon. And Icon's like, of all the heroes in Milestone, and I haven't got to read much of this. I've been waiting for the old Milestone comics to come out on Comixology so I can go read them. He seems like the most interesting. He's an alien that arrived on Earth. The first person he met was a slave. He was basically taken into bondage. He presented himself as a slave and lived through that atrocity. But in modern times, he was like a conservative black man that was a superhero. Now that is really interesting, kind of weird. Something I would be interested in reading just to see where that comes from. That's That's something you don't read in comics or see really in entertainment nowadays. But I don't think that's the icon we're going to get. I'm not going to show that part, but there's like a 4 or 5 page damnation of all of humanity where Icon just basically is tells the UN what enormous pieces of shit all of humans are. You know, your healthcare sucks and your law enforcement sucks, and he goes through the whole list. But this criminal here, she and I are going to change the world. And it was like, not exactly what I expected out of Icon. This is kind of an introduction for me to the character as far as reading him in a comic book. Probably the introduction maybe for a lot of people. And I find it to be, quite frankly, a big turnoff. You know, just telling everybody that's reading the comic, you're a piece of shit. Not a good selling point. But this is really weird. Apparently, there's this character. I do not know his name. If you know his name, please put him in the comment section. I apologize. But he's like hunting people in interracial relationships. Obviously, this has happened in the past. You know, America's got a great history, but it's also got a dark history, and you know we have to accept that. But I don't like, is hate for interracial relationships a big deal anymore? I mean, me personally, I'm in an interracial marriage. My wife is Asian. Both of my brothers are in interracial marriages. They're both married to black women. They happen to be sisters in real life, so my brothers are married to sisters, and it's a little the family vine, as I call it. Now they do tell me stories. You know, is it always puppy dogs and ice cream? No, every once in a while there you do get some conflict or some people saying things to you, but that one's pretty much equal opportunity. And that's kind of my experience myself. In the few occasions that somebody does say something to you, or it comes off as rude, it tends to come from all over the spectrum. You know, there's a tiny segment of population, no matter the race of who they are, they don't like interracial relationships. It's kind of the way it is. But the dialogue in this is really strange. Here's Rocket. That dude is out of his damn mind. And Icon's like, I know. And then she goes, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of crazy people, but he's like crazy. Racist for sure, but crazy. A life of privilege has misshapen his worldview. How do you get that? Yeah, I think he's a demon, isn't he? How do we know he had a privileged life? Maybe she knows more about the character. Maybe we're supposed to know more about the character. But this is all I know about him is what they presented. I don't see where's his life of privilege. And I don't get why he's hunting interracial couples. Obviously, they must have been scouting before because this is his first time. You could say he's just hunting couples. You know, there's plenty of interracial couples in America and around the world now. It's kind of in most advanced cultures in the world, it's kind of an accepted thing. But this is just weird. It was a weird introduction. Represent. This is a DC digital first, and I talked about this with Perch last week on the channel. I was like, do you really think he got this comic just because of his incident, you know, in New York, where he was kind of discriminated against, and the woman called the police and was threatening him because he was an African American? He's like, I think so, but we don't know what the comic is because all the preview pages were just counting down or retelling police brutality events and things that had happened. I guess trying to inform people of some of the events throughout history. But it turns out that is what this comic book is. I guess it's kind of an autobiography, but not really. And I thought it was strange because I've seen pictures of Christian Cooper, and there's actually one in this comic book, and he's a pretty big dude. He's like late 40s, early 50s. You know, he's a little bit older than me. And in the comic here, he's like, I don't know, 15, 18, something like that. Looks like a nerd. In real life, he's looks like a pretty athletic dude. So I don't know why he made himself in the comic book like 16. It's just really strange. And he's like a computer dork or something. It doesn't look like actually who he really is. But it's a weird comic. I don't even know that it is a comic. This is something that feels like it probably would have been on crowdfunded, you know, from Kwanzaa or something, or maybe Humanoids would offer this comic book. It doesn't feel like a DC comic. It certainly doesn't represent what you would expect from a DC comic. And, what is the point of Christian Cooper recounting his story? Certainly his story got worldwide recognition, and he seems to have changed a few details, added some things in here. There's an old white man telling him to get off his lawn. Did that happen before this happened, or was that just generalizations of people, telling him to get off their lawn? I'm not certain. But it's a weird comic book, and like I said, it doesn't feel like a DC comic. This feels like, I don't know, Black Mask, Humanoid, Kwanzaa special, on Kickstarter. Is this the future of DC Comics? Obviously, what we've got presented in Milestone is the future. We've heard Milestone's relaunching, and that's what that's Static Shock. His origin comes from the Black Lives Matter march. Icon thinks all humans are pieces of shit, and he's just waiting for a rocket to get off of this planet. But until then, he's going to teach us how to live a better life. And he's fighting, apparently a demon that's after people in interracial relationships. And this one, I don't know if this is the future of DC Comics. It seems oddly timed. Obviously these two free comics kind of come out at the same time. Also comes pretty close to the announcement of the Wonder Women of history, 18 phenomenal women who changed our world. Sorry, the microphone's in the way. This is obviously, highly left-leaning. There's 4 politicians on here, all on the left side of the spectrum. 3 of them are probably on the extreme left side of the spectrum. A lot of activists in here, leftist activists and things like this. They're pushing into the to the left-leaning ideology. Obviously, this, a lot of the creators in comic books are left-leaning, and I imagine the editors are too. But we haven't seen this so much in DC like we have in Marvel, but it definitely feels like a twist, a turn for DC Comics to kind of turn into this. And is this the future of DC Comics? I don't know. It seems like it's definitely part of the new strategy moving forward. We know that they did just hire Daniel Cherry III, and Perch and I did what I thought was a pretty honest and cordial debate about it. I don't think we said anything too out there. We got a lot of weird feedback on that one, but if you look at the guy's history, is he a marketing whiz? Absolutely. He has amazing marketing experience, worked with a lot of great companies, and has achieved a lot as far as marketing goes. But he's also highly in favor of Black Lives Matter. All of a sudden we get this represent where we're saying it's about police brutality and recounting the story of Christian Cooper. We're saying the origins for Milestone Comics have been now we're including the Black Lives Matter protests, riots, looting, whatever you want to call it. Can it all be coincidence? That's the question. Can this all be coincidence? And Mr. Cherry will be hands off. He's just there to do the marketing and not push a political agenda, which it appears that DC is going to be doing anyway. I imagine, it's not coincidence. I imagine they brought him in for a reason, because this is part of the direction that they're going. Will it take over Batman? Will this be what Superman's all about? Will this be what Wonder Woman is all about? And the Justice League? Kind of with what Marvel did during their SJ Marvel time, and obviously there's still a little bit of that in Marvel. I don't know. I can't predict the future. I haven't even read this comic yet. I've only read the 2 that they gave away for free. Now, will they be giving all of their really woke comics away for free? Maybe. That's probably the only way you're going to get people to read them. Just in my personal opinion, I don't think many people are going to be paying for a represent. That was an awful comic. It wasn't a well-executed story. It was badly edited. It had poor dialogue, and the art wasn't very good. Milestone had some pretty cool art in there. Jim Lee had some good art, but it had some really bad dialogue. I don't think that's who Icon is. I think that's who Reggie Hudlin is. That's the way I kind of took it. And so are DC Comics going to be allowing their creators to use these characters? I'm not invested in Milestone yet. I was kind of getting excited about it because of Gervain, but if that's what Milestone's going to be, I'll probably just skip it. No big deal. But I am invested in Superman. I'm invested in Batman. I'm invested in Hal Jordan. I'm invested in a lot of these characters. I'm invested in in Dick Grayson? You know, are they going to be using them as the mouthpiece for their leftist agenda? That'll be the big question. I'll be shocked if they don't, if I'm being completely honest. But obviously, only time will tell. We've seen these three initiatives. We got a couple of free comic books. Like I said, they probably have to give them away for people to read them. We got this Wonder Women of History, probably not aimed at me. This is probably for girls in high school and for feminists to give their daughters as stocking stuffers for Christmas. But we shall see what the future of DC Comics is. I'm not very hopeful, but I will be in there. I'll be reading these comics, and I will be honest with my critique and assessment. If it doesn't happen, I will be the first one to say I was wrong. But if it does happen, I will say, hey, I kind of saw this coming, and you should have too. So I don't know. That's basically going to do the video. I imagine I'm going to get a ton of hate for this. Whatever. I don't mind. The people that know me know who I am. They know my character, and they know what I represent. So, if you listen to this and you disagree with me, but you want to be nice and respectful and have an open dialogue in the feedback in the comment section, I do appreciate that. Also, if you agree with me and you want to take it to the next level and say some weird stuff in the comments, I don't want that either. Don't come in there and saying a bunch of weird nonsense in the comments either, because I mute people for that shit too. I don't know. That's the video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm going to be getting a lot of grief for this one. Tonight, there should be a review of Iron Man #1. We'll get back into comic books. I know that's what people mostly come here for, but I did think I wanted to cover some of the recent events of DC Comics. Are they going woke, folks? What's your opinion? I think they probably are.